Okay, so today we're diving into a Reddit post, and it's about a woman who finds some pretty troubling messages on her fiance's laptop.
Mm.
And I kind of got me thinking, have you ever been tempted to like peek at your partner's phone or
Oh,
their
yeah.
computer? I mean, most of us probably wouldn't admit it out loud, but
Right.
you know,
Yeah.
it's tempting.
It's so tempting.
But in this case, it sounds like her little discovery has really thrown her whole relationship into question.
Right. Yeah, this is one of those situations where it's just like, oh, it just pulls you in because you're like, oh my gosh, I wonder what happened. I wonder how this unfolded. And,
Yeah.
She obviously went into this with some doubts.
Yeah.
And then what she found just seems to have like confirmed her worst fears.
Yeah. So she actually asked her fiance, like straight up, "Are you attracted to my friend?"
Hmm.
And he said no. But she had this feeling like something was off. And I guess that's what led her to go snooping.
Hmm.
And she found these messages between her fiance and his best friend Mia.
Okay.
What did these messages actually say? What did she find?
Well, the first thing is that Mia doesn't even seem to like this woman.
Oh,
And it's all based on what the fiance has told her.
wow.
It's kind of unsettling, you
Yeah.
know? It's
Yeah.
one thing for friends to have different opinions, but it seems like he's been painting her
Right.
in a negative light.
Yeah, and then it gets worse.
Yeah.
Because then she finds out that he's been venting to Mia about their fights,
Yeah.
and not in a healthy way.
Right. And he uses some pretty alarming language.
Oh, no.
He actually calls her a bitch in one of the messages after a fight where he acted totally calm and forgiving to her face.
Oh, wow.
Like, to her face, he was fine.
Yeah.
But then to his friend,
Yeah, that's huge.
it's awful.
It's like, is he even being genuine with her
Right.
at
Like,
all?
It makes you question everything.
Yeah, like, is he putting on this show and then secretly harboring all this resentment?
Yeah, it's a huge red flag, and I think it's interesting to think about what that does to her psychologically.
Right.
To have this image of your partner that you think is like so perfect and wonderful,
Yeah.
and then to read these private, raw messages. It's
Yeah.
like discovering this whole other side of him.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It makes you question everything. And she even mentions in the post that she's aware of her own insecurities,
Mm.
which I think shows some self-awareness.
Yeah,
But, this goes beyond that. Like,
Right.
his behavior is a separate issue.
exactly. Self-awareness doesn't excuse his actions,
Right.
and it doesn't invalidate her feelings either.
Right.
We all have insecurities, but it's how our partners respond to those insecurities that matters.
That's true.
And in this case, it seems like he's almost using them against her, even if it's not intentional.
Yeah, so we have this woman who's feeling completely blindsided. She's questioning everything about her relationship. And then there's this added layer of guilt because she snooped to
Right.
find out the truth.
Ugh, it's such a mess.
It's a complicated situation.
Yeah, it really is. And there are no easy answers here. But
Right.
before we get into what she should do next,
Oh, yeah.
I want to know what stands out to you the most in this story so far.
What resonates with you?
Hmm.
What advice would you give this woman based on what we've talked about?
Yeah. It's interesting that you bring up the snooping thing.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of people struggle with that. Like,
Okay.
on one hand,
Yeah.
privacy is so important in a relationship.
Yeah, of course.
But on the other hand, are there times where that line gets a little blurry?
It's like that question, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is ignorance bliss, or is it better to just know even if it hurts?
Right, exactly.
I can see both sides.
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts on the snooping thing in this particular situation?
Well, I definitely don't condone snooping as like a general rule.
Yeah.
But I do think context is important here.
Yeah.
She wasn't like randomly going through his stuff. She had this gut feeling that something was off.
Yeah.
And she was validated.
Yeah, it's almost like she was looking for reassurance
Right.
and then found
Right.
confirmation of her fears.
Yeah, and that's what makes this even more complicated.
Right.
It's not just that he's venting.
Yeah.
It's that he's portraying her negatively and then acting like everything's fine to her face.
That's what's so disturbing to me, the inconsistency.
Yeah,
He calls her a bitch in this message,
right.
but then acts like everything is fine.
Right.
That's unsettling.
Yeah, it's really unsettling.
Do you think that points to something deeper?
It makes you wonder about his emotional maturity
Right.
and how he handles conflict.
Yeah.
Venting is one thing,
Right.
but the language he uses,
Right.
especially after they seemingly resolved the issue,
Right.
it just shows a lack of respect
Yeah.
and potential for things to escalate.
It makes you wonder what else he might be saying behind her back.
Yeah.
It also makes his apologies
Right.
seem less genuine.
That's exactly. If he's harboring all this negativity,
Yeah. Do you think it's manipulation?
I don't know. It's hard to say
Yeah.
without knowing more about their dynamic.
Right.
But maybe he's just compartmentalizing.
Hit it
He doesn't want to deal with the conflict.
Yeah.
So he bottles it up
Right.
and then releases it in these private conversations.
Yeah, and it might not even be intentional.
Right.
But it's still hurtful.
Exactly.
The impact is still the same.
She feels betrayed,
Right.
hurt, and she's probably questioning her own judgment.
Absolutely. And I think regardless of the snooping,
Yeah.
we need to focus on his behavior and how it's impacting their relationship.
Yeah.
There's clearly a breakdown in communication,
Yeah.
lack of respect,
Right.
and those are serious problems.
Okay, so let's put ourselves in her shoes.
Okay.
She has this information now.
Yeah.
What are her options? What should she do? She's at a crossroads, isn't she?
Yeah.
She has this information,
Right.
but she doesn't know what to do with it. It's a lot of pressure.
It is.
Yeah.
So what are her options?
Yeah.
Does she confront him? Does she try to ignore it?
Well, let's start with confronting him.
Okay.
I think it makes sense that she would want to do that.
Right.
Like, get it all out in the open,
Yeah.
demand an explanation.
But is that the best approach?
It's risky.
Yeah.
I mean, he could get defensive, deny everything.
Right.
Try to turn it around on her for snooping.
Oof. Yeah. And that's just going to make things worse.
Right. That kind of deflection can be so damaging.
It feels like a lose-lose.
Yeah.
If he reacts badly, it just confirms her fears.
Right.
But even if he apologizes,
Yeah.
can she ever really trust him?
That's the question, isn't it? Like,
Yeah.
trust, once it's broken,
Yeah.
it's really hard to rebuild.
Right.
It takes so much work.
Yeah.
And he would really have to show her
Yeah.
that he was sorry and take responsibility for what he did
Yeah.
and be willing to make changes.
It sounds like even if he did all the right things, there's no guarantee
No.
that she could move past this.
And that's something she really needs to think about.
Right.
Can she picture a future where she fully forgives him
Yeah.
and feels secure in the relationship again?
Or is this a deal breaker?
Yeah.
I mean, even if she doesn't confront him,
Right.
this has changed things.
Absolutely. She can't just unknow this.
Right.
It's like this crack in the foundation of their relationship.
Exactly.
It's just going to keep getting bigger.
So what advice would you give her?
I think the most important thing is for her to take care of herself.
Okay.
She needs time to process all of this.
Right.
And that might mean spending some time away from him.
Yeah, just to gain some clarity.
Exactly. Maybe talk to a friend, a
Yeah.
therapist,
Yeah.
someone she trusts.
And figure out what she wants.
Yeah. And then when she's ready, she can decide how to approach him.
Right.
If she wants to.
Yeah.
She might decide to confront him.
Yeah.
She might decide the relationship is over.
Yeah.
It's up to her.
Whatever she chooses,
Mhm.
it needs to be something that makes her feel empowered.
Exactly.
This is a tough situation,
It is.
but I think it's also a chance for her to grow.
Yeah, to learn about herself.
Yeah. And it reminds us that we all deserve to be in relationships where we feel respected and loved
Absolutely.
for who we are.
And sometimes the best thing you can do is walk away
Yeah.
from something that's no longer serving you.
Well, this has been heavy,
It has.
but also insightful.
Yeah.
I think we've learned a lot about trust, communication boundaries
For it.
in relationships.
It really makes you think about those things.
Yeah, that even seemingly perfect relationships can have these hidden problems.
Right.
And that being honest with each other
Yeah.
and communicating openly is so important.
It really is the foundation.
Yeah, thank you for sharing this Reddit post with us.
Oh, of course. It's been a great discussion.
Yeah, and I hope it's given our listeners some food for thought
I hope so too.
as you navigate your own relationships.
It's all a journey.
Remember, you're not alone in this.
You're not.
We all face challenges in love and life,
That's life, right?
and it's okay to ask for help,
Yeah.
support.
It's a sign of strength,
Exactly.
not weakness.
And if you're ever feeling lost or uncertain, just talk to someone you trust.
Talking helps.
It really does.
Yeah.
Until next time, keep diving deep.
And stay curious.
Mhm.